A woman carefully picked up a huge stone and threw it down the tower. Then suddenly, the most evil leader in Israel was hit by the stone. How did the man who burned down a city, slaughtered 70 of his own brothers, and ruled as king, suddenly get killed by a kitchen tool? To understand this, we must go back to the story of Abimelech. Gideon had many sons. He married several wives, and together they gave him 70 sons. But Gideon had one more son, born to a woman who was not his wife. She was a concubine who lived in the city of Shechem. Gideon named that son Abimelech. Gideon eventually died and was buried in his father's tomb. As soon as he was gone, Israel turned away from the God who had rescued them through him. But nobody knew that one day Abimelech would stand alone against his 70 half-brothers. The people went back to worshipping false gods, especially one called Baal-berith, whose temple stood in the city of Shechem. Abimelech was different from his 70 half-brothers in one important way. He had grown up in Shechem with his mother's family, instead of living with the rest of Gideon's sons. He noticed this difference and saw a chance to use it for himself. Abimelech went to his mother's relatives in Shechem and spoke with them. He told them to ask the leaders of the city an important question for him. Which was better, he asked them to say, to be ruled by all 70 sons of Gideon together, or to be ruled by one man alone, someone who already belonged to them by blood. The relatives carried this question through the streets of Shechem until every leading man in the city had heard it. Abimelech's point was simple and effective. He was theirs, his brothers were not. Some of the men debated the matter among themselves before answering. 70 sons of Gideon meant 70 different households competing for influence over Shechem. 70 different men who might one day demand tribute or loyalty from the city. Abimelech told the leaders of Shechem that it would be better for one man to rule them instead of all 70 sons of Gideon. He reminded them that he was their own relative through his mother. The leaders listened and decided to support Abimelech. They chose him over his brothers and gave him silver from the temple of Baal-berith to help him take power. But Abimelech did not use that silver to become a good leader. He used it to hire reckless and violent men who would follow him and do whatever he commanded. Abimelech took that silver straight to men known for being reckless and violent, men with nothing to lose, and paid them to follow him without asking what the plan was. They did not need to know the details. They only needed to know they would be paid. Then Abimelech gathered these men and marched toward his father's house in the town of Ophrah, where his 70 brothers were living. His brothers had no warning that their own half-brother was coming for them. They had no reason to expect danger from him. Panic spread through Gideon's house as the brothers realized why Abimelech had truly come. Some looked for a way out. Others searched for somewhere to hide. But the men Abimelech brought with him had already surrounded the place. Every path away from the house was blocked, and the brother they once saw as family had now become the one hunting them. Abimelech and his hired men seized them there, one after another, dragging each brother to the same place so the killing could be done quickly and without any chance of escape. They were executed together on a single stone, one by one, until none were left standing. Only one brother survived that day. The youngest of them all, a boy named Jotham, managed to slip away and hide himself before Abimelech's men could reach him. With his brothers gone and no rival left standing, Abimelech returned to Shechem to take the power he had been seeking. The leaders of the city gathered with the people from a nearby fortress at a great tree beside a stone pillar, a place used for important events, and there they made him king. No one in the crowd defended the brothers who had been killed. No one questioned what Abimelech had done or how the silver from their own city had helped him take power. Abimelech, son of a slave woman, killer of his own brothers, became king over the region. Word of what had happened eventually reached Jotham in his hiding place. He learned that Abimelech had been crowned, that the city that helped murder his brothers was now celebrating its new king. He did not stay hidden. He climbed to the top of Mount Gerizim, a place where his voice could carry down into the city below, and he called out to the men of Shechem. He told them to listen to him if they wanted God to listen to them. Then he told them a story. The trees, he said, once went out together to anoint a king for themselves.
These videos takes hours and hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe and comment which country you are watching this from.
They came first to the olive tree and asked it to rule over them. The olive tree refused. It said it would not give up producing the oil that honored both God and men, just to sway back and forth over the other trees all day. They went next to the fig tree and made the same offer. The fig tree refused as well, saying it would not give up its sweetness and its good fruit for that kind of position. They went to the vine after that. The vine gave the same kind of answer, refusing to give up the wine that brought joy to both God and men, just to rule over trees that offered nothing useful in return. Finally, having been turned down by everything of real value, the trees went to a thorn bush, a worthless tangled bramble that grew low to the ground, and asked it to be their king. None of the trees that actually produced anything worthwhile had wanted the position. Only the bramble, which produced nothing at all, was eager to accept it. The bramble agreed immediately, but it added a warning of its own. If the trees were not being honest in choosing him, it said, then let fire come out from the bramble itself and burn down every great cedar standing nearby. Jotham stopped the story there and spoke plainly to the men listening below him. His father Gideon had risked his own life fighting for them, saving them from enemies who would have destroyed them completely. In return for that, they had turned on his family, killed 70 of his sons together on a single stone, and crowned the son of a slave woman as king simply because he happened to be their relative. If they had acted honestly and fairly toward Gideon's house that day, Jotham told them, then let them have peace and joy with Abimelech as their king. But if they had not acted fairly, he warned, then let fire come out from Abimelech himself and consume the leaders of Shechem. And let fire come out from Shechem in return and consume Abimelech. As soon as he finished speaking, Jotham turned and ran. He knew exactly what would happen if Abimelech's men caught him after words like that. He fled to a place called Beer and stayed there, far from his brother. He had no army, no supporters, no way to enforce the words he had shouted from the mountain. All he could do now was wait and see whether God would act on them. Abimelech ruled over the region for 3 years after that. For a while, nothing happened to suggest Jotham's curse carried any weight at all. The city that had crowned him prospered under his rule, and Abimelech showed no sign of the kind of downfall Jotham had promised. Whatever guilt the men of Shechem carried for what they had done, it did not appear to be costing them anything. Then, at the end of those 3 years, something began to shift between Abimelech and the men who had made him king. Scripture says God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem, so that the treachery they had committed against Gideon's sons would finally fall back on their own heads. The men of Shechem turned against the king they had chosen. They began setting ambushes on the hilltops surrounding the city, robbing anyone who tried to pass through on the roads below. Word of these robberies spread, though Abimelech himself was not yet aware how deep the rebellion against him had already grown. During this time, a man named Gaal, son of Ebed, came to Shechem with his relatives and began living there. He had no loyalty to Abimelech, and he arrived at the perfect time. The people of Shechem were already angry with the king they had chosen, and Gaal became the man they looked to instead. Soon they trusted him enough to follow him against Abimelech. Gaal used that trust to stir the people further against Abimelech. At a gathering where wine was flowing freely, with the mood already loose and bold, and without the presence of Abimelech, Gaal stood up in front of the crowd and spoke against the man who ruled over them.
Who was Abimelech? And who is Shechem that we should serve him?
Abimelech was only the son of Gideon, and his officer Zebul served under him. But Gaal declared that the people ought to be serving men with real ties to Shechem instead of an outsider's son. He boasted openly that if the people would only follow him, he would remove Abimelech from power himself. A man named Zebul was ruling the city for Abimelech, and he was there when Gaal said these things. But Zebul did not argue with him in front of everyone. Instead, he stayed quiet, became angry, and waited for the right moment to act. That night, Zebul sent messengers in secret to Abimelech, warning him exactly what Gaal had said and exactly what was building against him inside the city. He told Abimelech to gather his men and move under the cover of darkness so they could be in position before anyone inside Shechem knew they were coming. Abimelech did exactly as Zebul instructed. He gathered his forces and marched through the night, splitting his men into groups and hiding them around the approaches to the city before the sun ever came up. In the morning, Gaal walked out and stood at the entrance of the city gate, in plain view of the fields and hills beyond. He looked out across the landscape and noticed movement coming down from the higher ground. He turned to Zebul, who was standing near him, and said he saw people coming down from the tops of the mountains. Zebul answered calmly that Gaal was only seeing the shadows the mountains cast, nothing more. Gaal looked again more carefully this time and insisted that people were indeed coming down from the center of the land and that another group was approaching from a completely different direction as well. Zebul turned on him then, no longer holding back. He asked Gaal where his boasting had gone now, the same boasting where he had asked the crowd who Abimelech even was, that they should serve him. He told Gaal to go out and fight the man he had mocked so freely in front of everyone. Gaal had backed himself into a corner with his own words, and now there was no way out of it. He led the men of Shechem out of the city to meet Abimelech's forces in the open ground. Abimelech's men struck them hard from the positions where they had been hiding since before dawn. The ambush caught Gaal's men completely off guard, and the fighting turned against them almost immediately. Many of Gaal's men were killed or wounded as they scrambled back toward the safety of the city gate, with Abimelech's forces pressing them the entire way. After Gaal was defeated, Zebul used the chance to remove Gaal completely. He forced Gaal and his relatives to leave Shechem and would not allow them to stay in the city anymore. Zebul's warning had reached Abimelech in time, but it had not stopped the rebellion completely. Word of Gaal's defeat spread through Shechem, and the city braced for whatever Abimelech intended to do next. The following day, the people of Shechem went out to work in their fields as usual, with no idea that Abimelech was far from finished with them. Abimelech split his forces into several groups and set an ambush across the open fields surrounding the city. When the people came out to work, his men attacked them directly, while Abimelech himself led another group straight at the city gate to cut off any chance of retreat back inside. The fighting continued through the whole day without stopping. By evening, Abimelech had taken full control of the city. He killed everyone still inside it, tore the buildings down to the ground, and scattered salt across the ruins. A sign meant to declare that nothing would ever be built there again. Some of the people of Shechem, hearing what was happening to their city, ran instead to a strong tower attached to their temple and sealed themselves inside, hoping the thick walls would keep them safe. Word reached Abimelech that they had gathered there, refusing to come out. He led his men up a nearby mountain and ordered them to cut branches down from the trees. Each man carried a bundle of branches back toward the tower, and Abimelech himself carried a bundle on his own shoulder. They stacked the branches high against the base of the tower and set the whole pile on fire. The people trapped inside had nowhere left to run. The same walls that were supposed to keep them safe now trapped them with the flames. Everyone sheltering inside died that day. Roughly 1,000 men and women together, burned alive in the very place they had believed would protect them. Shechem was gone completely. But Abimelech did not stop there. He marched next toward a city called Thebez, laid siege to it, and captured the city itself without much difficulty. The people who lived there ran to a strong tower inside the city, the same way the people of Shechem had run to their temple and sealed themselves inside it. They barred the door behind them and climbed to the roof, watching the army gather below and waiting to see what Abimelech would do next. Abimelech gave the order to surround the tower completely, cutting off any chance the people inside had of slipping out unseen. His men took their positions around the base, and the city that had once belonged to Thebez now belonged entirely to him, except for this one last stronghold. Then he approached the tower himself, intending to burn it down exactly the way he had burned the last one. He carried fire toward the entrance, confident this would end the same way it always had, the same tactic that had already destroyed an entire city once before. He came close to the door of the tower, close enough to set it alight. A woman standing above him on the tower looked down and saw him approaching. She had no soldiers beside her, no weapon meant for battle. She had only what was within reach on the roof of that tower. She picked up an upper millstone, a heavy piece of stone normally used for grinding grain, and dropped it straight down from the tower onto his head below. The stone crushed his skull on impact. Abimelech did not die right away. He was still able to speak, and he called out quickly to the young man who carried his weapons for him. He told the young man to draw his sword and finish him. He did not want it said afterward that a woman had been the one to kill him. The young man drove the sword into him as instructed, and Abimelech died there at the base of the tower. When Abimelech's men saw that he was dead, they did not keep fighting. Each man simply turned and went back to his own home. And the war ended as quickly as it had started.
Do you want to learn how to make these videos? Go to my YouTube page and watch the member-only video. I provide all the prompts I use, tools I use, and how I animate. These videos takes hours and hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe and comment which country you are watching this from.